A warm welcome to all the school leaders and educators on behalf of Cambridge. I'm Dhananjay. I'm the marketing manager of Sri Lanka. Today's session is on strengthening mathematical understanding with Cambridge mathematics resources for primary and lower secondary. This session will be delivered by the Cambridge certified trainer, Dr. Rahul Sharma, who brings decades of experience in education and who is also the principal at the Cambridge International School. While many other uh, members join this session, I welcome you to introduce yourselves in the chat box so that each other can get to know each other, and Dr. Rahul can also get to know a better understanding on where you're coming from, what sort of an experience you have, and likewise. I encourage you to ask questions and engage more with Dr. Rahul and to ensure to get the most out of this session. And in the end, we will share a QR or a link where you can share your feedback with us. And there, with which we will share the participation e-certificate as well. So that being said, Ruchi, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Dhananjay, for introducing very kindly to Dr. Rahul and me. So, a very warm welcome on behalf of Cambridge. I'm Ruchi Tiwari, the product manager for South Asia. And we are very glad to host you for today's workshop, which is especially aligned for Sri Lankan schools. And Dr. Rahul is a wonderful trainer who has been doing a lot of webinars and the face to face workshops here in South Asia. Whereas he is not only limited to primary and lower secondary, he's been tackling IGCSE and A levels, physics and maths both. So please feel free to put all your questions and queries to the rest by putting it in the chat box. And if at all you have any questions to ask and the question is still in the burning need, please raise your hand whenever the discussion is going on. So Mr. Rahul would come to know that you're asking the question. He would allow you to unmute. Otherwise, I would request all of you to keep your devices on mute to maintain the sanity of the session so that we don't disturb the entire deck and entire session while it is going on. But nevertheless, it's always good to listen from you or know your concerns. Don't worry that anybody is going to judge you for any question. All the questions which are in your mind are our queries. So we are happy to answer all the silliest of the question and the worthy questions. Don't feel that the question would be judged or somebody would question that, oh, you don't know there's something like this. Nobody's going to bother about that. Anything you have in mind about the Cambridge resources, Cambridge curriculum, and your primary, lower secondary, what is the syllabus code, and what's inside it, whatever comes under the umbrella of Cambridge, we would try to answer all your questions and concerns. So here we go. Yes, over to you, Dr. Rahul. Thanks, Dhananjay, and Ms. Ishani, who's hosting this webinar for us.
Thank you, Ms. Ruchi. Thank you, Ms. Dhananjay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Rahul Sharma, the Principal and Chief Operating Officer at the Cambridge International School, a proud legacy Cambridge institution with around 1,200 plus young learners now. With nearly 17 years in education and 14 of those deeply rooted in the Cambridge curriculum, I can still confidently say that I'm still learning every day. When educators like us come together, I would say magic happens. Our mission is quite simple to build an interactive and fun learning environment through the most powerful channel on the earth. That is, we, the teachers. So, as we discussed, let's have a short introduction in our mathematical way where the subject which is maths. It's obviously one of those quotes which we say is the only subject where you can buy 60 watermelons and no one would ask you why. Yeah. So let us know each other with a quick poll. Don't overthink. Write your name in the chat box and just type in one word that best describes how you feel about maths. Let's be honest, like if I say Rahul Sharma plus fun, that could be an example which I could write for maths and myself. So maybe within the next 30 seconds, if you all could write your names and what you feel about maths, that would really help me also to understand. Yeah, we give you 30 seconds. Please introduce yourself in the chat box along with what you feel for maths. One of the delegates had written, Ajay plus scary. So it could be anything, as Ruchi ma'am definitely said. There's nothing silly as such. I would really be appreciating that. Thank you, Miss Kasoni. Kasoni and interesting. Yes, it is interesting. Thank you. Ms. Sherin Fernando, I would also like what you feel about maths. So, as a mathematician, let's add plus and what you feel about your subject. Thank
I
you,
have
Ms.
also
Chaturika.
responded myself, magical. I can see Miss
So,
Razmina's hand raised. Would you like to ask any question, Miss Razmina or Mr.
it's playing a
Sagar?
game, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Fatima, Miss Minza, Miss Savni. Interesting. Okay. Miss Mifaza says easy. Okay, that's great. That's great. We wish our children also could say that the same thing. Miss Yashoda plus curiosity, yes. Miss Sadari plus fun. That's great. That's great. That's great. So, as mathematics teachers, mathematics educators, we all feel the same where it's fun, it's interesting for at least us as teachers. So, yes, we get an idea about you and your subject interest or what you think about maths. So, let's dive into our session where we have a short warm up for you. Let's kickstart today's session and stretch our math muscles by getting our math brain cells firing. So let's think of something. Think of a number less than 10, but keep the number secret. Don't write in the chat box. Okay. I give you 5 seconds. Think of a number which is less than 10, but keep the number secret. Okay. We are trying our mental math skills here. So I'm sure you have thought of a number which is less than 10 and you're keeping the number secret. Next we go is double your number. Whatever number you have thought, just double that number in your mind. Yes, as maths teachers, I'm sure you're doing that in your mind. You have thought of a number less than 10 and you have doubled that number. Next step would be add 5 to that doubled number. So whatever number you had thought, you've doubled it and you have added 5 to it. Okay, okay. Now subtract 1 from that number which you have thought. Finally, divide that number by 2. If that's done, whatever answer has come, subtract your original number which you had thought. Subtract your original number which you had thought. Okay. Now you can write your answers in the chat box. Can I get the answers in the chat box? What is your final answer? 2, 2, 2. We have some great mental mathematicians here. Yes, yes. How come the answer is 2 for everyone? That's great. That's great. So this is that small warm-up activity for, I would say, our grade, any learners, maybe especially the primary and lower secondary students, where you are showing yourself as a magician. So I'm not a mathematician, I'm a mathemagician. So math teachers, mathematics is actually a math magic, I would say, with a good idea of learning and teaching mathematics. We can play along with maths as a warm-up activity, which we just did. And thank you so much for your responses. I'm able to get everyone's responses very nicely. The answer is 2. So there's no hidden magic here. There's maths over here, and that's how we warm up our brains for a session, which will for sure help us clear out many things. Like we have to be focusing on understanding the primary and lower secondary maths, which is covering all the objectives of the curriculum framework. At the end of the session, we should also be able to know that the course consists of several components that work together for effective learning. No one understands the advantages of thinking like a mathematician approach. Let's term ourselves as mathematicians now and not just mathematicians. How lesson planning is supported in the teachers' resources and as well as the digital resources. So these are the target areas for this 2-hour session which we are here for. Now, let me introduce you to a very simple yet powerful tool for feedback, the RAG system. I'm not giving you traffic rules over here for sure. Why do we use this? In case we have any doubts throughout the session, we will be using this as a checkpoint for understanding your understanding of the session, whether I am going in the right direction through this traffic signal. So red being I have a query on this section before we proceed. So I would be on and off at the end of some sessions, will be asking you if you have any query. If you've not understood anything, you could write in R. If you have understood thoroughly and it's a new learning for you, you could definitely write A as an amber in the chat box later on. And G, that's, I mean, you understood very nicely. That's a great reminder, and I will update my colleagues too. So this will be an RAG system, a feedback tool, which we can definitely use with our kids as well, where we give them three cards, one R, one A, one G. So we give cards to all our kids in the classroom, and whenever we ask them whether they have understood a particular concept or whether they can digest that concept properly, we could, rather than asking them, they could just show the cards where G is something which they have understood very nicely, R is they have not understood, and A is something which they have understood, but they will definitely research. So with this in mind, before I start, can I just get an RAG? Are we on the same track with you? So have you understood my thought of having this feedback session from you? So RAG, can you all please chat, write in the chat box RAG, whether you've understood or no. Thank you. Thank you, please. RAG. That's great. That's great. So it's a warm up to just know. Okay, Miss Chaturika, I'll definitely come to you on that. A, okay. G, 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 G. That's great. So Miss Chaturika, for you, especially what we are thinking is I will be on and off after every session. I will be asking you whether whatever I have covered, has it been understood by you. So if you say, if it's understood, you will be writing a G and you will be writing, okay, yeah, I've understood, I've thoroughly understood. As you have mentioned A in the chat box, that means you have understood, but definitely you will need to go through again. And R is something which you have not understood. And my target would definitely be something which is never an R. So with that in mind, I will move ahead. As Miss Ruchi definitely said, be very open to ask any questions. As we, as a mathematician, we all should be knowing that the acronym for math has been said as mistakes allow thinking to happen. It's a very great wording or a statement which we say mistakes allow thinking to happen. So as a teacher, it's our duty to make our kids inquisitive. I would like you to think about how you deal with errors and mistakes when any feedback from any child comes in. We all want to bring in that confidence to ask even the wrong questions. And just remember or just take it in mind with our kids as well that no question in maths is a silly question. Yeah. So let's be open to any question which you have. You can definitely write any question in the chat box throughout the session, and we will see to it that we are answering almost every one of it. So when we talk about Cambridge Maths Curriculum Framework, when we talk about Cambridge Maths Curriculum Framework, you can see the primary mathematics is coded as 0096. I repeat, it's 0096. And the lower secondary has been coded 0862. So 0096 and 0862 are the two codes for our primary and lower secondary Cambridge mathematics. As we all know, it tries to bring in that rational thinking. The learners become more competent for the real world, and which they can definitely apply in real life situations. So the target of Cambridge while drafting 0096 and 0862 is majorly to bring in those mathematical skills. Let the children think like a mathematician, work like a mathematician in fact, almost every subject, not just mathematics. So that's how Cambridge Maths Curriculum Framework has been introduced for us. A major point as a Cambridge school or as a Cambridge teacher comes into picture where we try to bring in these five attributes in the kids. These are the major five attributes which we call as riser, that is RICER, being reflective, innovative, confident, engaged, and responsible. So our kids are definitely, as teachers, we try to bring in that responsibility into the children, where they set their own goals, they learn from their own mistakes. That is a very important thing when it comes to a Cambridge attribute into a child. When comes into innovation, we have to be, thinking about welcoming creativity, where we say, let's try your idea today. Let's not just be as a teacher, I'm only teaching, you bring in your own way methods. That's innovation into the attribute of a child. Confidence is something where the child is ready and telling you, ma'am, I have not understood anything, can you explain again? That's the confidence which comes into picture as a Cambridge learner. When we talk about engagement, they definitely feel that learning is mattering. They are involved in that learning process. And being reflective, nothing but it's like, I would say, when we talk about being reflective, learners should also think about their own thinking. Somewhere we call it this as metacognition as well, where the children are being reflective on what they are learning and whether they have understood things or no. And as I said, that RAG thing works wonders when it comes to the Cambridge approach. So when we move ahead, we have to be thinking the riser, responsibility, innovation, confidence, engagement, and reflective. These are the 5 characteristics of a Cambridge learner. When it comes to maths, very beautifully, primary math strands have been divided, as you can see. Thinking and working mathematically being the center of the whole curriculum. As we discussed, the curriculum which is framed in such a way that it's not just learning maths, it's using maths in the daily life in almost all the subjects. Those for the primary section, the maths has been divided into 3 parts, that is number, geometry and measure, and statistics and probability. As you can see, numbers, geometry and measure, and statistics and probability. This curriculum framework, which was somewhere designed in 2020 for 4 to 5 hours of maths per week. I repeat, 4 to 5 hours of maths per week. But the actual teaching hours would definitely depend on your conditions also. When it comes to an upgradation into the lower secondary section, the same center thinking and working mathematically, you can observe that the number strand, the geometry and measure strand, and statistics and probability strand is still there. Something which is added into the lower secondary section is the algebra. So when we talk about an upgradation, there is a beautiful progression which happens, taking into consideration these 3 stands into the primary section and these 4 stands into the secondary section. With the center at thinking and working mathematically, whenever or wherever strand, whichever strand we are getting into, the major focus is to make the child think and work like a mathematician. So what exactly is this Cambridge Maths Curriculum Framework trying to do? Helping the child to think and work mathematically, encouraging the learners to talk with others, challenging ideas, and provide evidences. This supports higher order thinking that assists learners in viewing the world as a mathematician, I would say. So this thinking and working mathematically has been beautifully designed as a star, where you can see specializing and generalizing as one of the stars, characterizing and classifying, conjecturing and convincing. And at the center, we have critiquing and improving. When we talk about this, specializing and generalizing is basically choosing an example and checking whether it is following a maths criteria. Generalizing helps in putting many such examples together. So as a mathematician, we always try to take in one example and try to solve that example, and we then check whether it's following a particular mathematical criteria. Then I try to solve many such examples and keep them together into teaching that particular topic or a particular method. When it comes to conjecturing and convincing, conjecturing is forming ideas as per the self understandings and then finding proofs for convincing whether formed idea is right. So when I'm saying specializing, the specializing was involving choosing an example and there was already a mathematical criteria set. I am trying to solve it through that mathematical criteria. When it comes to conjecturing and convincing, I am making an idea, I'm forming an idea. And once I have formed an idea to convince myself, I am trying in solving more sums through that idea. So obviously, when we try to solve sums, there could be a specializing question where there are already set laws in maths. I'm trying to form one question, solve one question, and then generalize that question. Conjecturing is I'm myself forming an idea and then deriving a solution or method, I would say, and then I'm convincing myself whether my method is right or not. Finally, characterizing and classifying and this characterizing and classifying, again the same thing. Now I'm understanding whether the question is from a particular, I would say, formed method by me or already set method, and then I classify that sum. And at the end, we come into that critiquing and improving, as you can see at this center, comparing all the mathematical ideas, their advantages, their disadvantages, and improving upon the methods. That is the most important task when it comes to metacognition of a particular problem, of a particular topic. So, thinking and working mathematically, when Cambridge has designed this, they have given you, as a mathematician, that yes, questions could be of a specializing and generalization category, or conjecturing category, or classifying and characterizing category. And finally, we all need to know that it's important that we critique a particular method and improve upon that method. So, when we talk about these things, most importantly, the 21st century teaching and learning approaches, which are being given by Cambridge, are as follows. As we can see, active learning, where children are themselves involved in their learning process. Assessment for learning, as a teacher or as a learner, whether the child is able to understand what I'm teaching. If not, am I checking and am I changing my ways? That comes into assessment for learning. Could be a possibility that a child is understanding through videos, or someone is understanding through practical approaches, or an activity based learning. So I would be knowing this particular child or this particular group of children are understanding by this method. So I am assessing myself. When it comes to differentiation, it's a teaching practice in which learners think of learners as individuals, and it's a personalized process. It cannot be that I am going and writing on sums for 20 kids and I'm expecting that all those 20 kids will be understanding through this same method. It's never a case. Differentiation is really involving all the kids, all the learner types, all the processes which every learner would like and understand through. Language awareness, yes, as a mathematician, there is always a confusion between evaluate, or I would say solve, or calculate. There are certain terms or terminologies which, as maths teachers, we have to be informing our kids, which are being very sensitive. And when it comes to whether it is asked to express, whether it's asked to evaluate, whether it's asked to maybe solve. Metacognition, thinking about your own thinking process. That's really important when I'm planning, I'm monitoring, and I'm evaluating my whole process of learning. Planning, monitoring, and evaluating. We call it PME, thinking about my own thinking. So when a question is being solved by a student, the child has to know, think about it, whether I am writing it rightly or no, whether I could use some other method. So that's planning and monitoring, and finally evaluating their own understanding of process. When we try to bring in all these things, that adds into the skills for life, and together they help you out into a 21st century teaching and learning approach. One short notion, I would say, we have a limited amount of time today, so you could request definitely a separate session for pedagogy, or same to your Cambridge representatives, to go through everything in depth. These are just introductions or the wording terminologies which I have defined, obviously because of the shortage of time. But yes, as a mathematician, I would surely love to explain you the CPA approach, where I am very much sure that when we have been, as in as students, when we were young, we were small kids, we were taught mathematics through an APC approach. That is nothing but abstract, and then finally I would say a pictorial representation, and then concrete. Like our teachers used to possibly explain a particular concept to us, then if time permits she would show us pictures, and if time permits she would give us projects, or I would say some concrete evidences. Times have changed. It is high time we reverse this process and now follow the CPA approach that really helps out in first giving the child or giving the kids a concrete thing. Okay, this is that thing. How could I apply maths over here? Then possibly a pictorial representation, and finally coming to the abstract approach. So when a child has a hands-on or use active learning to understand the concrete things, when he has seen or when she has seen the pictorial representations of what he is going to learn, then this abstract becomes really easy. So one of those active learning methods or approaches could be the CPA approach. Like for an example, I would just say to teach an equation also, we obviously at times give a question where I had 10 pens, 3 pens were given to this person, how many pens are remaining? Rather than telling them through words or through writings, it would be a great idea to have them come down, give them 10 pence, then one of them giving 7 pence back to someone, and then counting that, because that helps in understanding in a better way, because children learn better through visual and active learning rather than just the abstract concept. So yeah, as mathematicians, CPA approach is something which is really important. When we talk about the CPA approach, there are essential maths manipulatives all around the corner. There are many math manipulatives which, as teachers, we should be definitely using them in our classes before we start a particular chapter, or I would say to help in the CPA approach. There are many manipulatives. Almost as maths teachers, we are bringing in many solutions which are real life questions. So let's start using manipulatives at the secondary level, in fact, at the primary level as well. That's really more important, the primary level, I would say. So when we were talking about the progression, we understood that TWM, thinking and working mathematically, had 3 strands at the primary level, 4 strands at the secondary level. The beauty of the progression you can observe here is learners are I'm just taking in one example where we talk about numbers or the mathematical skills here. So we see improving numerical fluency and knowledge of mathematical concepts of numbers, shapes, and data. At the lower secondary level, they are actually solving variety of mathematical skills, way of thinking, and playing them an active role in the modern society. At the end, when they come into the IGCSE, the I would say the boards of grade 10, 11, 12, they develop that confidence in understanding the mathematical knowledge. So any strand has been designed in such a beautiful way that progression is happening right from primary, taking it towards lower secondary section, and then dragging it down towards the IGCSE or the A levels as well. So when we talk about those resources, they have also been made in such a way that stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and so on. All these points are taken into considerations. So I'm sure I have tried to make you understand about the TWM, the CPA approaches, the progressions, and the brief about the curriculum framework or the thought process behind planning mathematics. So this is our first traffic signal over here where we are trying to ask you into the chat box, am I going in the right direction? If you could please type in the chat box and RAG and remind me that I am going in the right direction. I take in 30 seconds silence here and would definitely like to know whether I'm going in the right direction through our traffic signal here. Thank you so much. That's so great. I can judge now that I'm going in the right direction through our traffic signal. Thank you so much, dear educators, to understand what I'm uh, directing you towards. So, with that in mind, having understood the basics or having understood what the plan about mathematics is, we dive into the, I would say, a process or something where all these things have been eased out when it comes to understanding and executing those things. That is the course components. There is a teacher's resource, there is a learner's book, and there's a workbook. All of them coming into very much importance. And it's my utmost responsibility to take you through these resources and manifest the idea that how these resources will help all of us in reaching our mathematical goals, which we just spoke about in the first section. So yeah, the primary maths components, you can see teacher's resource, something, a snapshot of that is this way: a learner's book and workbook. So we provide these three things: teacher's resource, learner's book, and workbook. Learner's book and workbook obviously goes to the students, and teacher's resource stays with the teacher. This is a snapshot of the lower secondary maths components: a teacher's resource, a learner's book, and a workbook. Now the vocabulary which comes into these things is a real, I would say, shift or a trademark shift when it comes to Cambridge teaching approaches. As you can see, learning intentions, something called as learning intentions, this has replaced the term objective. We had a word called objective in the teaching processes. Obviously, we all know what are objectives. Now, those objectives have been renamed as learning intentions in the Cambridge resources. The major reasoning of renaming everything is that we are trying to shift from a teacher centered approach to a learner centered approach. I repeat, the teacher centered approach, we are just shifting away from that and turning towards the learner centered approach. So, how we do that? We start renaming things, we start digesting those words which were a teacher centered approach, now coming into a learner centered approach. So, any resource of Cambridge where you find in objectives are named as learning intentions, outcome is named as success criteria. I repeat, objectives are learning intentions. Outcomes have been renamed as success criteria. There is something called as introduction. That introduction has been renamed as getting started with or getting started. Then comes the main idea. And finally, when we talk about a plenary, plenary is something nothing but a conclusion. So when as a teacher-centered approach of learning, objectives were named as are named as shifted into learner-centered approach and called as learning intentions. Conclusions have been named as plenary. Why we are doing this? The main reason being we are trying to bring in a shift from a teacher-centered approach to a learner-centered approach where learners are bringing in those five attributes of Cambridge. So teaching approaches are embedded in the resources. The picture is, you can see this picture is from that CAIE website showing the getting started with series, in this case, the active learning. This approach is embedded in all the CUP resources. When I talk about active learning, when we spoke about the 21st century skills, these are there in almost, I would say, all the resources. What better a reminder than the approaches printed handy in your teacher resource like this? As you can see over here, every teacher's resource would have the statements or would have certain explanations at the start, where what is active learning, what is assessment for learning, what is differentiation, what is language awareness, metacognition, and skills for life. Somewhere every word which I had discussed in the first section of the webinar. And obviously, they have also reminded you the Cambridge attributes, be it the learner attributes, be it the teacher attributes, all being same. So it's a reminder already put in those resources, and these are the terminologies which are used on regular basis in these resources. When we were speaking about introduction to thinking and working mathematically, they have not just defined and left it. They have actually given in the book, and they are showing you in every sum and every problem that I'm trying to solve this through a specialization technique or through a generalization technique or a characterization technique. And a special note or an introduction of all those words which we are speaking about is also given at the start of the teacher's resource. That was the primary mathematics resource. As you can see, this is the lower secondary mathematics teacher's resource showing you everything where TWM, the conjuncturing, the characterization, the TWM star, the methods are also embedded in that teacher's resource at the start itself. So when I'm talking about teacher's resource, the beauty of this is they are giving you a unit plan at the start of every chapter. There is a unit plan which has subunits written in them. As you can see here, the approximate learning hours which you should take in to teach that topic, the learning outcomes or the learning content which they are going to go for, and they have also given you resources which you should be using in that particular chapter at the Cambridge Go digital resource. I will come to that when I reach that section. But the teacher's resource is telling you this is the my unit plan. In my unit plan, these are the TWM questions which you should focus on. They have also categorized that this question is a specializing question, this question is a generalizing question, and so on. The learner's book, the workbook. So they have not just left it for the sake of it. They have explained it and they have introduced in every chapter or every subunit. They also start any chapter with a background knowledge of that chapter so that I know whether the child is aware of these things so that I could move ahead. If the child is not aware of this, I would not be able to move ahead because whatever I'm teaching would go in vain. So that background knowledge should always be there as a check for you into a teacher. That we called it as a preset or a pre-session before a class. That's there in the textbook itself. It's there in the teacher's resource itself. So what exactly the teacher resource contains? It will help you in planning lessons. Yes, all the plans are there in the teacher's resource. As a teacher, I do not need to plan anything. I repeat, I really do not need to plan anything because every small detail is there in that planning lessons of the teacher's resource section. It helps me deliver a lesson. It helps me bring in those 21st century skills of active learning, differentiation, assessment for learning. Yeah. So I would just show a showcase over here where you can see the teaching skills focus. So when I am trying to teach a particular chapter, they are telling me think about these things as well when you are teaching that particular chapter. Whether TWM, that is thinking like the thinking and working like mathematician, is coming into picture or no. So when I come back to here, as we discuss unit plan with these TWM sections, starting with this background knowledge and then the teaching skills focus, which is over here. So I would say every unit contains a teaching skills focus. That's a good opportunity either for a teacher to develop their own practice also. Yeah, or to for the whole department to set up a regular departmental professional development program. So that's how a teaching skills focus as an investigation for my own understanding, for the children's understanding, for our whole group as a mathematician understanding helps in there. And I'm repeating this is there in the teacher's resource in every unit. In addition to those things, we have digital resources as well. So when you talk about digital resources, whatever we are just talking about as a hard copy, there is also a soft copy maintained in the Cambridge Go website. So when planning any lesson, it is really essential to consult the unit resources on the Cambridge Go and then download the additional teaching ideas because it's really important that these things are there and you should be utilizing those things from the Cambridge Go as well as a soft copy. So as you can see here, the unit plan, I'm getting in depth of those teachers resources. When I open my teachers resource, the first thing I see for a particular chapter is that unit plan, where the subtopics, the learning hours, the outline of the learning content and what resources I'm using. They have given you resources also. This resource sheet 1A, 1B, 1C are these examples, which is there in Cambridge Go also, that, okay, just go into Cambridge Go, take in these resources and use it. So these things, why would you search outside and go and check what planning I should be doing, what resources I should be doing, what materials I should be having? So when I was talking about the CPA approach, these resource sheets are fulfilling that approach. As you can see, these are the resource sheet examples. When we talk about the digital resources, this is how a Cambridge Go website, when you go in, it looks this way. These are the downloadable resources for teachers. When you go into that, you get all the materials like unit resources. Every unit, there are resources. When I'm talking about this, you can see Unit 1 resources. I mean, Chapter 1 in our language, Unit 2, Unit 3. All these resources are there for download. So when I'm just clicking on one of them, this is how that Unit 1 resource will be shown to me. When I open that, these are the things which I am getting in my Cambridge Go resources. You can see differentiated worksheets. When we were talking about differentiation, I understand as teachers, we understand differentiation, but it becomes very difficult to frame questions for differentiated people. They have already given you these worksheets. They have given you additional teaching ideas. They've also given you language awareness worksheet for that particular chapter. So everything is ready in that teacher's resource of Cambridge Go digitally as well. Additional teaching ideas. When we see about these additional teaching ideas, you can see there is a starter idea given. I would like to talk in depth about this, but it's just an introduction over here. Starter idea. How would you start a particular chapter? How much time will you take to start that chapter? Main teaching idea. Then they have, the plenaries at the end. I'll come to this section later, but yeah, all in all, when we are saying that teachers resource is giving me the whole unit plan, the number of hours, it is giving me the resource sheets as well. It is also giving me a digital resource in Cambridge Go where all the units downloadable resources are there in that. I would like to definitely touch in more depth about it, but for sure I would also like to understand from you whether we are all on the same track and I am going in the right direction. So we take a 30-second halt and ask you whether we are going in the right direction through the RAG traffic signal. Kindly please write in the chat box RAG so that I am also getting aware, okay, we are going in the right direction. Thank you so much, Ms. Hiroshi, Namisha ma'am, Ms. Leonie, thank you, Ms. Shareen, Ms. Kumudu, thank you, Ms. Manisha, Ms. Ruby, Ms. Ridmi. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me a proper direction that yes, I am going in the right direction through our traffic signal. A special mention once again, these things, RAG feedback system as a teacher, you could also use in where you give your students cards, red, amber, and green to all the children and just ask them, have you understood? They will be definitely showing you RANG rather than being, I would say, afraid of being judged by their friends. They are just showing the cards and you as a teacher understand whether you're going in the right direction or not. So thank you so much for that feedback. We'll move ahead with the next part of our section. That's how to use the learner's book. What exactly is there in the learner's book which the student is getting? I would say it's not a standalone book. It is always a key component in the course. But I would surely say that most important would be surely the teacher's resource. Teacher's resource is something which you get as a teacher. Learner's book is something which the child will be getting. It contains the support over there for mathematical development. They have plenty of practice questions, different types of practice questions. So with that in mind, when we talk about how to use this book, these are certain screenshots of the learner's book. and in their own language. If you see it very nicely, for a teacher, the wordings were different, the statements were different. For a primary learner, the wordings are totally different. Example, that specializing is when I test examples to see if they fit a rule or pattern. So they have given this in a very simple term or in a simple language which a primary learner should also be able to understand. Okay, this is specializing, this is characterizing, and this is printed in the learners. So when the teachers are trying to use those terminologies as well, students are also knowing what the teacher is using as a word. This is a snapshot once again for those TWM sections for the lower secondary section. So that is there in the introduction. Now, how does a chapter look like, or how does a chapter start with? You can see numbers and the number system when we talk about. Really sorry. Yeah. So it has a getting started with section. So as a teacher also, there is a getting started with section there, and they are taking care of. Just a minute, please. Sorry for the technical glitch. So there's a technical getting started section where students are setting up those child friendly objectives. It also has those keywords over here, as you can see, certain keywords, the TWM questions. Uh, when we talk about we are going to, that is nothing but the objectives or the learning intentions for the child. So it's written in a child friendly manner. Obviously, these wordings for learning intentions will not be there for your teacher's resource, but it will be there as a child friendly manner over here. Then they have keywords, which is nothing but mathematical vocabulary. In the learner's book, there is a worked example given step by step approach to solving a particular problem. Then they do have those thinking, and this exercise is there for them where they are trying to solve in many questions altogether. They also have these TWM sections. If you can see here, a star is made. So the TWM is also taken care over here into the learner's book itself. They also have a summary and progress check through the exercises, I would say. At the end, definitely, they also have project, so that when I am having a project section for a math teacher, I would like to give them projects also. I would like to assess them through real life understandings. And at times, as a teacher, we feel like where do we go and research about those projects? These projects are always there in the teacher's resource. In fact, in the learner's book also. So these projects are anyways there in the learner's book. So as a student, as a teacher, you have to just tell them, okay, go and solve project 4 for your activity-based learning assessments. So this is a snapshot, certain snapshots of the lower secondary learner's book. And as we say, the progression, the concepts, the wordings, the terminologies are always the same. They have getting started with section. So they also have a keyword section. As you can see, there is a tip section, there is worked example section, there is real life scenario section. So when we discussed all these things for a learner's book, for all stages, that remains the same. So there's a beautiful progression starting right from stage 1 to your last stage for the books. This was all about the learner's book. When we were discussing, we spoke about a bit on teachers resource, we spoke about a bit on definitely the learner's book. The third part which comes is the workbook. Now workbook, you can see all the questions in the workbook are all structured according to the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy, I would just like to show you the Bloom's taxonomy first. If you can see here, remember and understand being the first levels of any understanding or any question. Apply and analyze being the next stage where I am remembering and understanding a particular concept. Now I'm applying and analyzing that concept on my own. And finally, I am evaluating and creating a new concept. So that's how Bloom's taxonomy has been beautifully framed, where remember and understand being my first levels. Then, after understanding that particular concept, I apply and analyze that concept. Once I'm through to that stage, I am evaluating and creating a particular concept. Bloom's taxonomy holds true for all levels, all subjects of questions, and definitely maths is not an exception to that. How beautifully Bloom's taxonomy has been used in the workbook, I would like to show you here, where workbook, they have divided the questions or the sections as focus section, practice section, and challenge section. When we talk about the focus section, the Bloom's taxonomy level 1 and 2, that is understanding and remembering, come into picture here. These questions help you to master the basics. When we go on to the level 3 and 4 for Bloom's taxonomy, that is apply and analyze, these questions help you to become more confident in using what you have learned. So I definitely have understood in my focus level sections. So every chapter there is a focus section, then practice, then challenge. So every child will definitely start in with focus to maybe create their understandings, then they apply those understandings, and then they finally come on into those higher level questions where the questions and thinking methods are hard and they are challenging, they are creating and evaluating their own concepts through the whole workbook's chapter subunit. So that was about Bloom's taxonomy used very nicely in the workbook, where focus, practice, and challenge are the three types of questions. I would surely like you to see some snapshots of those workbooks. So this is that workbook where they have given you certain worked examples with certain wordings, obviously with certain terminologies. Then they start with the questions, the focus questions where the basics are clear. Then they give you the practice questions where you are checking or applying and analyzing what you have understood. And finally, the challenging questions, which take care of the TWM also. So focus, practice, challenge. So as a workbook, I would say, as a teacher, I would say, I am able to cater to all levels of children through my workbook. Possibly a learner is not so good in maths, but at least he or she should be able to solve focus and practice questions. A learner is extraordinarily good in maths, but still they have to start from focus, practice, and then start and solve many challenging questions. So yes, the levels according to Bloom's taxonomy has been, I would say, platformed and used in the workbook for every chapter, every stage. These are certain extra snapshots of lower secondary workbook. If you can see, focus, practice, challenge. Focus being the lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy, the middle levels, and then the higher levels, the difficult levels, I would say. That was about workbook. How do I get support for projects now? So when we talk about projects, there is a digital support from Cambridge University called as Enrich. So Enrich is an innovative collaboration between the mathematics faculty at the University of Cambridge. It brings in many projects. I would say almost, I would not even be able to tell you how many of them are there. I would say many thousands and lakhs of projects and still getting added for all age groups, right from 3 to age group 18. There are so many project resources over here as an activity rich problem solving tasks, right? So this, as a, I would say, a teacher or as a school also, when we try to bring in a maths exhibition, believe me, right from grade, I would say age 3 to age 18, all levels of questions, all levels of activities and projects are there in this website, the Enrich website. Definitely do later on go through this website to bring in many projects. And when we talk about that, this is being made by the Faculty of Mathematics from the Cambridge University only. These are the projects which have been incorporated in the workbooks also, in the learner's book also. So this is again a snapshot of that Enrich project. So projects work come out as an area where teachers really want more opportunities, making apparent, titles and subjects, promoting good practices. Maybe as a school, I make in a maths club where they are doing many activities together, math exhibitions to create interest of students. We are giving them regularly projects. As teachers, if you just go and check out about the enrich projects, you will be knowing that regularly there are competitions also where students can write their own solutions to a particular project, and they are posting in the website, and maybe students are appreciated and motivated also through the website regularly. So I would say as maths team, it encourages students to explain those mathematical concepts through the enrich projects. And definitely the workbooks, the learner's book, the teacher's resource have been taking care of all these things. Maybe the Bloom's taxonomy, where focus, practice, and challenging questions are there. Learner's book is taking care that the level of understanding comes through the child level, whereas learner centered approach is being followed very nicely. Yes, so we take a 30-second halt once again, and would like to surely know whether we are going in the right direction. Kindly type in RAG in the chat box so that I also understand very nicely whether I am going in the right direction. Thank you so much, dear delegates. Thank you so much. I am sure that the chat box is also motivating me that yes, I'm going in the right direction through the G's which I'm getting. But yes, for sure, at the end, we'll also open the rounds for question answers in case you have any. And feel free to ask any questions if you have. So let's have an understanding of what we have understood through the learner's book, through the teacher's resource, through Cambridge Go, and definitely the workbook. We'll try and do an example lesson preparation together. So let's say there is a particular unit called special numbers where I open the teacher's resource first. I get into the unit plan and I want to start and make a lesson plan for this. That is test of divisibility. Before moving ahead, can I just get in the chat box how much time generally we take to make a lesson plan? Could be obviously different for all of them, but I would like to know how much time do we actually take to make a lesson plan on an average. Obviously, it would be differing case to case, but just an idea where we could understand how much time we take to make a lesson plan. Can you please type in the chat box? Maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, or whatever. Don't worry, you won't be judged. Please, I would really like to know how much time lesson plans take for you to be completing. Definitely, I'm sure you'll be following, making a lesson plan before starting a chapter. I'm very clear we are not judging. Definitely could be 40 to 45 minutes. Thank you, Miss Kumudu. I used to take 2 hours to be frank with you. So there's no need of judging each other. That's fine, and I have no shame in telling that. I used to. Miss Minza is with me. Yeah, she also takes 2 hours. That's great. 1 hour, okay. And as teachers, it's for a day. That's great, ma'am. Thank you. As teachers, it feels at times, a task consuming, very consuming thought where 1 hour, 2 hour, you have to think, plan, research, and then put it on paper to deliver a particular lesson. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sure I'm so happy to get answers from you where almost all of us are on the same track. So, yes, with that in mind, I would like to bring in that process where I was also very flabbergasted to know that, okay, a 2 hour lesson plan can be converted into some 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm serious, we could complete a lesson plan, I would say maybe in 10 or 15 minutes, and that too a typing work. How? So let's try and plan this chapter 15.3, which is nothing but test of divisibility. So I open my teacher's resource, which I'll be getting through Cambridge definitely. I check in the background knowledge. Really useful information for teachers is in the background knowledge box. So where I am knowing that for this chapter, these are the things which are important to be started with. So with that in mind, I will first start with my teacher's resource. As you can see, unit plan we have discussed, learning intention, success criteria we have discussed, and with that In the Cambridge Go website also, you get a template, a lesson planning template. So there's no need to make your own template. Just go to the Cambridge Go website. It's a downloadable and editable template for lesson plan, which has all the details as such. So we go there, and then finally we come into the teacher's resource where learning objectives, success criteria, language support. All these things are given to me. I have to just go back and type it here. I cannot copy paste it for an obvious reason that if I am copy pasting it, I would not be reading it. So that's the reason they have not allowed the copy pasting option. But yes, you read this part. Okay, this is the success criteria. You go back and type in here in your own language. That's still fine. Learning intentions, language support. Then they have given you the starter idea, how much time it takes, the main teaching idea. Then they have also given you differentiation ideas, as you can see here. Then they have also given you additional teaching ideas where plenary idea, assessment idea, a homework idea, all of them are mentioned. So I have to just see this, go back in my lesson plan template and type it there. I am not researching anything because these researches have been already made by some great experts of mathematics through Cambridge. And obviously, there could be a thought where I would also like to add in my own ideas. You can always add them, but there's no necessity as such because these things are, anyways, those great level researches which have been already made. You have to just use them, read them, download the lesson plan template, and type in there as a lesson plan to understand how you can complete a particular chapter. So these are the additional teaching screenshots. This is the test of divisibility thought or a textbook thing. So before that, I'm sure let's apply maths in the real life now, where this is a really good way of making maths relevant in the real life. So I'm sure there is always a question whether a particular watch barcode, I could tell you whether the barcode is real or fake. I repeat, you can see these are two watches given to you. You have to just tell me which watch is fake, which watch is real. So the rule over here says this is the rule, as you can see. Add the digits in the even number positions. So all the digits in the even number positions. I repeat, I am just explaining this. Then the next question is for you. You will add all the digits in the even number positions. That is 790. So 7 is second position, 9 is fourth position, sixth position, fifth position, the eighth position, the 10th position, and the 12th position. So a barcode for a watch has 12 digits, as you can see here. Even numbers I have added, the even positions I have added. The odd positions, I will add all of them and then multiply by 3. So as you can see, the odd ones are first digit, third digit, fifth digit, seventh digit, ninth digit, 11th digit. I have added all of them and then multiplied by 3. Dear teachers, I am definitely trying to use maths and test of divisibility in the real world and how show you how exactly that could be used for a very basic concept of finding whether a watch is fake or real. So I added all the even numbers, even digits, or even positions. I added all the odd positions and then multiplied them by 3. I am adding both of them, the even ones and the odd ones multiplied by 3. I am adding both of them. And finally, whatever answer I am getting, I am dividing them by 10. If the remainder is 0, the watch is real. And if the remainder is not 0, the watch is fake. That's how I could apply this test of divisibility in real life. So I'm sure we'll go back and use this test for ourselves also as a mathematicians. I repeat because I am giving you a next question here. First, we're adding all the even positions. That is second position, fourth position, sixth, and all. I've kept that aside. The odd positions I have added and then multiplied by 3, as you can see here. That is the first position, third position, fifth position. I am adding those two numbers and I am dividing the final answer by 10. If the remainder is 0 after dividing by 10, my watch is real, otherwise it is fake. So with that in our mind, let's solve this question. And I would request you take 2 minutes, check which watch is fake and which watch is real, and let us know which one is the real one. We give you 2 minutes. Think about it. If you have not understood how to do that, message in the chat box. I could repeat once again, but please let us know in the chat box one difficult maths problem which I have given you, and trying to apply in real life the test of divisibility. Miss Fatima will definitely guide you for that. Yes, dear mathematicians, I am expecting your answers in the chat box. Which watch is real, which watch is fake? In case anyone has any doubts how to solve that, I would be definitely happy to help. If not, let's speed up and tell me the answers in the chat box. Second one is fake. Okay. That's great. Miss Kasuri, that's great. Miss Kumudu, then thank you so much. Let us see whether others are able to do that. Yes, Mr. Hiroshi, thank you so much. Yes, we have some great mathematicians here where everyone is understanding the concept where, yes, the first one is real and the second one is fake. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Dinushika. Perfect. So we conclude that yes, dear educators, the first watch is the real watch and the second one is fake. What a beautiful way to ask our kids to take this concept back home and use it for their own watches if there is a barcode. This or these are the examples which are there in every chapter of the learner's book, of the workbook, where you are building in that curiosity in the children, connecting maths with the real one or with the real life. And that's how beautifully we can help our kids learn and understand mathematics. Thank you so much for your answers. All of us are all correct. The first one is the real one, and the second one is the fake one. Thank you. We move ahead with introducing and developing the lesson. We come back to that part where the last part of section, next part was the introducing the lesson activities. These are there in the lesson plan templates, as I mentioned. And these are the activities once again with the screenshots, main teaching ideas, starter ideas, relating that to the textbook, which has the TWM questions also and the exercises also. Finally, as I spoke about that project work, as I spoke about that applying things to real life, think like a mathematician section at the end of every chapter or every unit. So we are developing those curiosities in the students' minds. Maybe you're not able to take them in your own classes, but you could give them at home or maybe some project where they can, maybe as a math club or a math exhibition, they can understand the whole concept through such thing like a mathematician activities. Finally, there are plenaries to conclude. This is nothing but a self-assessment that can be done in the class itself. After the end of every chapter, there will be a plenary where you should definitely go back in the learner's book and check all these questions, whether the students are able to answer or no. So these are certain plenary ideas where we can also ask questions from our end. So concluding my chapter, I am also having that, okay, this is the way I conclude. This is the way I take back that my child has understood a particular concept which I have taught in my class. Activities, assessments, workbook support, these are all taken into consideration when making a lesson plan. As you can see, the assessment opportunities, how I can check, how can assess my child when I'm learning, I'm teaching a chapter, how differentiation opportunities can be brought in, plenary, homework if required, and notes. Notes could be something which I use specially for putting in my own ideas in case I want to put any ideas. So generally there's no need to put, but if I want to put my own ideas, I could still put in the note section. And for these differentiation assessment, plenary timings, everything is there in the teacher's resource. I'm just reading and typing it back here. Workbook, for sure, we have just understood, and this is that screenshot of the focus practice challenge questions, focus practice challenge, taking into mind, taking into considerations of the TWM, the thinking and working like a mathematician section, project based things. So when we were talking into Cambridge Go, there was something called as at the unit plan, start of the unit plan, there was resource sheet given to us that this is a resource sheet which you should use, or that resource sheet which you use. What exactly is that resource sheet? This is that resource sheet which I downloaded from Cambridge Go. So when I want to teach a particular concept in my lesson plan, they are telling me, okay, use resource sheet 1A. This is that resource sheet 1A. Why would I go back, research a particular topic, and then come back if it's already there for me? I have to just download and use it in my class. So that's resource sheet over here. Worksheets, once again, the downloaded worksheets which are there ready made. Why would I make my own worksheets if these worksheets are already made by someone? I have to just download them and give it to my kids. These worksheets, as I mentioned, are taking care of the focus practice challenge for Bloom's taxonomy. The language worksheets, as math teachers, definitely we feel at the end, or I would say, whether the wordings have been understood by my child. So, what are the language awareness my child should be having? Because it's never a pure math approach. It also needs to be have an integrated approach while teaching maths. Definitely, English brings in a majority of the portion of it. So, language worksheet is also given so that you understand whether those terminologies are used and understood by my kids. And finally, there is an end of unit test also. This again is there in the Cambridge Go resources where I am just downloading that unit resources and checking my kids whether they have understood a particular concept or no through this end of unit test. The mapping, the progression, I would say the Bloom's taxonomy is used in such a beautiful way that these things are apt and focused on those targets where maybe I could miss as a teacher, but yes, these are there ready made for us. So when I'm trying to make in a lesson plan, I'm sure that when I'm making a lesson plan, I'm downloading my lesson plan template from Cambridge Go. I'm using my teacher's resource and Cambridge Go together, typing in things in my lesson plan template because everything is there in the teacher's resource and Cambridge Go. The materials, the worksheets, the resource sheets, the end of unit tests are there in Cambridge Go. I'm just downloading it. And it's the most authentic level of questioning for my kids there. Just an understanding, that would be one of my last traffic signals. Can you please type in RAG in the chat box so that I understand I have met the criteria, the learning outcome or the success criteria for this section. Please type in RAG in the chat box. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for patiently listening and actually going into speed with me. Thank you so much, dear teachers. I getting G means yes, I have I've gone on the right track and I'm trying to bring in all those things at the right place. Thank you so much. Coming into the last section, managing expectations. How do you share this approach which I am talking or which as a teacher I have understood? How do I explain my parents? How do I explain my school heads? How do I explain my principal, my head of department? For that, these questions or the parents, you have to be preparing them as well. Okay, the following questions may be worth discussing. Why don't learners complete all the questions in the learner's book? This is the worst question which a maths teacher always faces. And I'm sure you are smiling while listening to this. Every maths teacher has always been questioned, why don't you take all the questions in the learner book? Why are there varieties of tests? What is the format of homework? And how can primary and lower secondary maths work alongside the national curriculum, which is there in my country or in my, the area where I live in? I am sure now for those answers as teachers, you don't need to answer everyone. Just send them this letter. That's preparing parents for Cambridge Maths. Where do I get this letter? That is also there in the Cambridge Go resources. So when I go and download it from the Cambridge Go, these resources, these letters are there with them. We have to just post it to the parents where we are telling them, ask your child to be curious, read with them, listen to them, ask them what they think of the book they are reading, and certain letters where they will be definitely explaining that not all exercises in the learner's book will be covered. Parents should also be aware of that. The format of homework, the test which they are taking, how this is helping it, being flexible, or encourage them to, explain them that, designed, the structure of the assessments are designed in such a way that they are somewhere at par to the national curriculum, or maybe a way ahead of the national curriculum when it comes to that. So this letter is also there in the Cambridge Go resources. You have to just download and send it to the parents. So after having understood everything, how do I develop my professional practice? This seminar majorly has focused on understanding how to use those resources effectively. This was not a professional development program, but yes, we are definitely seeing to it that how effectively we could bring in those professional developments into us. So it will help us definitely develop our skills and competencies, demonstrate to your school leaders or employers that your professional practice is being upgraded every time, and obviously improve the promotion opportunities as well. So this is some, I would say, screenshot or a statement where teacher PD is a structured, facilitated activity for teachers intended to bring increase their teaching ability. This is said by one of those mathematicians, I would say. So these are certain steps. What exactly is professional development? The aim of all the professional developments is basically to improve the students' learning outcomes. This diagram will show us how this is possible through the PD cycle, where improving learning outcomes is something which I want. So I need to improve my teaching, I need to structure myself, I need to come regularly, update myself, improve my confidence, bring in learner-centered activities. Greater engagement has to happen, and then finally my learning outcome increases. So somewhere to bring in those developments in the kids, as teachers we have to develop ourselves like the way we are doing right now. We have to regularly, I would say, upgrade ourselves. There are many workshops through Cambridge where maybe you as a leader you go and train yourself, and then you train your own team. That is nothing but training to train yourself model, cascade model, which looks like this, where I'm improving the knowledge of resources, cascade this knowledge to department teachers, and then teachers' practice improves, and finally the whole team's practice improve for student understanding. Teachers will definitely understand how Cambridge resources are used, how I would say pedagogy, or which levels of pedagogy or curriculum could be brought in a picture into my classroom, how a learning environment could be brought about into approaches of learning and teaching, how effective lessons are planned, and obviously an understanding of sharing of ideas through Cambridge international teachers as well. So these are certain snapshots of those resources. This is certain QR codes to the Cambridge COPPD pages. Definitely, I would suggest, I would encourage you to go through those websites where all the PD courses plan and structure is already mentioned along with the timetable. So these are again certain CAIE PD website pages, screenshot or the QR code for that as well. Getting started with, as a fresher, I would say, as a new teacher who's just joined in, there are courses for getting started with also, which helps us, bring in interesting and important information on teaching approaches recommended by Cambridge. Screenshot or the QR code for that. And my final traffic signal to just check whether I have reached our destination together. Please type in the chat box RAG. Thank you so much. The last traffic signal, I would say. Thank you so much, Miss Leona. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. So with that in mind, definitely our feedback or reflection towards this session Have we met your expectation where we understand the curriculum framework strands, majorly the strands, how the course components work, and whether I have understood a bit about the professional development courses. So, thank you so much for listening to me so patiently and being so responsive and reflective. At the end of every session, I would definitely open the platform for question answers or any feed thing which you feel needs to be answered by us. Feel free to ask. As we mentioned at the start of the session, there is no question which is a silly question. We'll surely like to know from you any doubts or clear any doubts in case you have any. With that, obviously, I would also request you to please fill that feedback form which is just mentioned in the chat box so that we also understand and you get a certificate of the webinar for the same. So it's really important that we fill in that feedback form which is just given to you in the chat box, dear teachers. And in case you have any questions, please mention it. Would be really happy to help. Thank you, Miss Ishani. Can we get the recordings? There's a question Miss Jayani has asked. Yes, Miss Ishani.
Yes, sir. Sir, we will be sharing them with the respective team members soon. Okay.
Definitely. So, Ms. Jayani, I'm sure your question is answered. That will be shared with your respective team members. My pleasure. Any questions would be definitely welcomed. There's no need to feel that this may be a silly question, so why should I ask this? So, there's a question in the Q&A section. Are these books used in international schools in New Zealand and Malaysia for primary education? Cambridge being an international board, ma'am, if your school is following the Cambridge curriculum, these are the books which are surely used there. Thank you so much for that question. Dear teachers, in case you have any questions, feel free to ask. And definitely please fill that feedback form which is given to you. Can you please send the feedback form once again in the chat box?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure, Miss Leona, Miss Kasuni. Thank you, Miss Ishani. Mr. Dhananjay is always there. Kindly please get in touch with him for any queries or any help or guidance required through Cambridge. For sure, there were certain questions about how to access Cambridge Go, how to get those teachers' resources, how to get a hang on the learner's book workbook. Mr. Dhananjay is the go-to person. Is given his email ID also in the chat box. You can always save it for future references also. So if we don't have any questions, I may ask you to be. I would like you to thank you, and definitely once you complete the feedback form, you may leave the session in case you have no questions. Thank you, Miss Leona. Once again, a gentle reminder to please fill the feedback form once you're done. If you have no questions or any doubts, you can surely say bye and leave the session. Thank you. My pleasure, Miss Fatima. Do try those things. Thank you. And dear mathematicians, if you're done, you can definitely leave the session after completing the feedback form for your certificates. Definitely. My pleasure, Miss Dishika.
So I hope since everybody must have filled the feedback form, we have only left with the 20 participants. We can end the session now if everything is
Sure.
done, right?